like to invite, I've shared my memories, my sense of Barbara, would like to invite anyone. You all, you're a part of her life, would like to come and share. I wish I could pass the mic around, but it has a cord, so either I invite you to come up, or you can stand up and use your outside voice, and please share. We would be honored, and I know she would like that. Just jump in.
Where's Terry Fergie?
We're so grateful to have with us moms, one of Mom's cousins, representing all of Milwaukee folks, Terry Fergie.
Thank you, Mary. Am I close enough to the mic? Up? Up? Close? Okay. All right, thank you so much. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for coming to this beautiful celebration for my cousin Barb. I will try to hold it together. My name is Terry Fergie. I represent the vast contingent of cousins from the Milwaukee, Wisconsin area. There are very many of us. Thank you. Actually, there are 25 cousins, and out of the 25, there are 2 Teresas, I'm one of them, named after our grandmother. Most of the rest are named after biblical persons. There's 2 Thomases, 2 Marys, 1 Kathleen, 1 Mark, and you can see that Barb repeated a lot of those names in her own kids. 1 Mark and 2 others not named for specific persons. There was a Karen and a Charlene. There you go, Charlene. Then 1 Tom married a Kathy, another Tom married a Marie. And I tell you this because it's a very Catholic, very large family. And when you repeat that many names, you never know who's being called on. Until they use your middle name. Then you know you're in trouble. But there was only 1 cousin Barb. I talked to all of my cousins and asked them what I should tell you about her. Well, there's nothing that you probably don't already know about her, especially her family. She was musically gifted, beyond belief, a seamstress extraordinaire, kind, empathetic, and always loving. No one can deny her extreme devotion to all of your family. And one other thing, she was a terrible wall painter. There's a picture of her in one of those books painting a wall, and I don't think it was along this line, but that just reminded me of that. A long time ago, Barb helped our cousin Karen paint her first apartment. The kitchen in that apartment was bright red. She couldn't take that. And it wasn't obviously in a Polish area, so you're going to have a bright red kitchen. But she couldn't take it. So they were painting it white. Barb and Karen went about their business of painting the kitchen. And not only the kitchen got painted, but the walls, the furniture, the floor, the girls, the windows, everything got painted. Eventually they got the job done, but not before everything was just a mess. Another cousin, Kathy, shared that when she enrolled in nursing school, Barb was there to urge her on and give her pats on the back. When study became hard, Barb was the one to tell Kathy, "You are smart, you can do this." And Kathy went on to be a scrub nurse for a very large hospital. So she was very grateful to Barb for all her encouragement. Barb and Dan came to visit in Wisconsin, and they came to our home for dinner. My husband, Dan, had a beautiful tenor voice, and of course, I'm wanting to show him off to Barb. I mean, really, who wouldn't? So Dan and Barb agreed on a song. She sat down at my piano and began to play. Dan began to sing. There was a little bit of an off-key tone to it. And Barb turned to me and said, "Terry, you need to get this piano tuned. She wasn't about to embarrass Dan. That's okay, I don't need that.
Okay.
I'm good, thank you. One of my dearest memories of Barb is one of the hardest for me to relate. I lost my husband of 30 years a while back, and Barb and Dan were always there for me as I adjusted to my new normal. She always reminded me of how lucky I was to have been with my Dan for that long, and all the many years of love and joy that we shared. Dan, I'm here to tell you now the same. This wonderful woman that walked by your side is still with you and will be in everything that you do. She loves you still and forever. I don't know if I can go on. Let me get my act together here. Dan asked me to read a note that he got from one of his fellow band members. So let me just get a quick drink and I will do that. I'm glad this is an informal thing. This is a note, an email from Dan, to Dan from Rick Miller, the man who brought the Seven Sons together. Hey, Danny Wells. This was Dan's stage name. Apparently Horswell didn't play well. So it became Danny Wells. Take it easy back there. You beautiful brother man, you have been daily on my mind. This must be so hard, my heart goes out. I remember first meeting Barbara at the Seven Sons Morningside reunion concert. We drove together somewhere, must have been to Margaret's house. You made a crude joke in the car, and doesn't he always? And she rolled with it. I immediately saw the fit. Takes a special woman to deal with one of us. We are a special group of interestingly quirky, sincere, and yet with few traditional boundaries, but real deal musicians and very real good people. Barbara is one of those special women that totally figured it out and fell for one of the most beloved of us all. I remember also when she was with us for a roof garden reunion, struggling valiantly up some stairs after her knee replacements. You didn't have to be so nice. I would have loved you anyway. The ideal song for you to sing. Wells, you were a heartthrob, whether you meant to be or not. I got that. It continues to amaze me at age 18 how I managed to recruit such incredible young men for the endeavor that became the Seven Sons. That would emerge again 37 years later. Enough of my random thoughts, Danny. I hurt for you. And I'm warmed by the years that you and Barbara had together. I'm not able to make it to Atlanta. However, feel free to share this note. I could go on and on, no surprise. Love you, Danny boy, and we'll never forget our sax trumpet harmonizations. Rick. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here. I shan't. Yep.
Do you have that other one?
And then Jane, you handed me some of the papers. I like that from Helensburg. All right, this is another memory shared. Can you hear me? Okay. Via email from a very old dear friend of my mom's, Joan Liederbach. And she writes, Paul and I and our children, David, 3, Jimmy, 2, and Janet, 1, moved to Westbourne Road in Lyndhurst in the summer of 1963. I was so happy to be back in Cleveland after being in Steubenville for 4 years. It was a great neighborhood with friendly people. Barbara and Bob and baby Mary Jo lived next door. Oh, did we have lots in common. Our youth, our families, our church, lots of visiting back and forth while kids played. And sometimes we tried to get chores done in concert. For instance, bringing her ironing board over so we could enjoy ironing the white shirts that our husbands wore to work. Remember, this was 1963. One of these days was November 23rd, and we were ironing the white shirts when we heard the voice on the radio say that John F. Kennedy was shot. And shortly after, that voice proclaimed his death. So many memories. The neighborhood parties, the shared babysitting, the shared concern when my 2-year-old Janet burned her lip on an electrical cord and needed to stay in the hospital. Barbara babysat baby Christine when I taught part-time in 1967. I owe Barbara for the resumption of my teaching career. We were certainly busy. Then we moved to another part of Lyndhurst, and then they moved. Barbara finished her teaching degree and then got a job at Brush High School. No more ironing sessions. We lost touch. But then when I was in Twinsburg, and I was in Twinsburg High School watching my grandson in a performance, Janet told me, her daughter Janet, that Barbara was playing the piano. Well, the two Lyndhurst ladies resumed their friendship big time. Lunches, yoga, concerts, visits to Venice, where Joan and her husband had a summer place. It's my fault that Dan and Barbara moved to Florida. They loved it so much when they visited us there. Meanwhile, Paul got sick with mesothelioma. Thank you, mesothelioma. They were such a help that year. Barbara and I went to the funeral home together to arrange for Paul's service days before he died. They were at the service, and that evening Dan and friends played guitar and sang in Paul's honor. And then I visited them in Venice and in Atlanta. We said that we missed each other, and we had to come to play cards again and laugh and eat pizza. And when the slideshow goes back up, you will see from the last visit that they had made the summer before, she and her daughter Christine and Mom and Dan playing cards. So Chris and I planned a trip that would start out visiting my brother Joe and my granddaughter Meg, and then Barbara and Dan. But she got sick. Barbara called me on Wednesday, October 23rd, to say that she thought we probably wouldn't see each other that Saturday. I said, of course we would. Chris and I were on our way. But she was right. I was heartbroken when she died on Friday, one day before we were to get together to play cards, laugh, and eat pizza. I miss you, Barbara. And I want to say, especially if Joan, if you are joining us, so Joan and Christine did come on Saturday, as we were all there, to all the children to be together, followed Barb's passing, and it meant a lot to have you be there with our family. So thank you for your love and your friendship. Is there anyone else who would like to share a memory, say a few words?
Can I share it?
Yeah.
Eli, where are you going to go?
You can go.
All right. I'll let them just do a little one.
You do a little one at one.
No. My way.
Please don't be shy.
There could be many stories told here, but the one aspect of my mom, I think that everyone is also touched is her gift for the inappropriate.
Yeah.
Thank you. I was going to go there too. I was thinking the same.
So I just gave you all permission to come up and tell your version, your story. I'll just tell the most recent one. There are many that go back years. Louder, Kathy? Oh, this one. That's right. You have to speak directly into this thing.
Yes. You have to eat it.
The most recent, when she was in the hospital, as Mary was talking about. And she had occasion to receive a fairly emergent procedure that involved them, putting the paddles on her. And they were talking to her during this time period. And then all of a sudden they were wheeling around and they shocked her and she said, "Hey, that was rude." That was actually shocking. They were not amused. And then she goes, "And then they did it again." Just a small example of her way of telling you what she thought in the moment when it happened. Whether or not it was exactly the right thing to say, or that the recipients might have thought was killing. So I'm sure there are other stories. I have some Mary's looking at me. I can tell you later about what Mom said as we were saying goodbye to Mary going away to her high school prom. First time. But I'll spare you that.
That's later.
Homecoming. It wasn't even prom. It was homecoming. I'm going to turn this over to my youngest, Charlene.
I know that story.
I can tell a very brief, perhaps more G-rated version along the same theme of that, which was, I met my wonderful husband when I was living in Seattle with my brother Bob. I was living at my brother Bob's house, and I met my husband
In the basement.
And was talking to my mother on the phone, and Jason happened to be there. She hadn't met him yet, and so I was telling her about him and how wonderful he was, and I said, "Here, say hi to my mom." And I passed him the phone, which he looked rather appalled at me at that moment. And I think they traded some small talk for a bit. I don't remember exactly, but then she said, "So, are you being safe?" To which he, always on his toes, responded, "Of course, we wear our seatbelts every time we get in." So, good job, Jason. Which is, I'm sure, exactly what she meant. And yeah.
I won't be able to follow that up. But I speak better through the piano than usually through my words, so I will do my best. But and I have nothing pre-planned. I'm just kind of speaking from the heart. So forgive me if I ramble a bit. But as for many of you who are watching the live stream probably know, and for those of you who don't know, I was a pianist with the Singing Angels from about 2008. I believe it was either 2007 or 2008, till about 2019 or so. It went after I graduated as well. But I played for the younger chorus. There were two choruses in the Singing Angels, well, three. But I played for the group called the Reserve Chorus, which was the younger kids, and then there was the Performing Chorus, and that was the group that Barbara played for. And so I started with the Reserve Chorus, and when I moved up to Performing Chorus, I got to meet and work with Barbara. And those were regular, like, bi-weekly rehearsals. So we were meeting all the time. Bi-weekly is an understatement. Sometimes it was more like 4 or 5 per week. And God, it was a blast. It was so much fun. Barbara and I really quickly got a liking to each other, choosing which songs we played. We would trade off regularly which songs we'd like to do. I would give her all the beautiful, slow, classical music. I believe Ave Maria, Greatest of These, Let There Be Peace on Earth. I told her I will happily take the 70s pop medley. I'll take the Hairspray, Can't Stop the Beat. I'll take the Holiday Hoedown. I'll take all those stuff. And it was so much fun, and we got to travel to so many different places. With all that, it was incredible. I was a high school student, and I got to go to all these different cities. Got to go to New York City. Got to go to the White House. Got to go to Switzerland. The Singing Angels were incredible. Getting to work with Charles Ebersol and all the wonderful friends I made, Jim Ballagher, everybody, and the Harrises and everyone. It was amazing. And forgive me if I'm forgetting names, but it's hard for me to put into words exactly the impact that Barbara has on me as a pianist. today because when I was starting, I didn't really know what it was. I knew what it was to play piano. I didn't know what it was to accompany. I didn't know what it was to play with a group. I had to learn that through watching. And I watched Barbara all the time. I was very good at like banging the piano out when we had to play pop song. I was very good at that. But she had this beautiful, delicate touch on the pieces she played. You know, I got to play Let There Be Peace on Earth my first few times playing it. I just wanted to play it as loud as possible. That's what I thought you were supposed to do. She showed me the difference when I saw her play between playing loud and playing musical forte. Having that kind of delicate touch. I hope this is making sense, but having that delicate kind of touch on the piano, it really gives an extra level of depth. And just watching her do that, that made me better. That made me play better. She was an incredible woman. She was an excellent performer, excellent pianist. And I think, because I work as an accompanist now, I'm now working at Spelman College as a collaborative pianist, along with a few other schools in Atlanta. And it's the craziest thing, I came down to Atlanta only a few years ago. I was initially in Cleveland, Ohio, and I came down here, Atlanta, a few years ago to pursue film music, because I love film as well. That's a whole other world I'm in. And I had no idea that Barbara and Dan were both down here. It was completely coincidental, and we were only like maybe 10 minutes from each other. So that was amazing. So I had the wonderful chance to get to see you both at least once, and I wish I got to see her even sooner, but I was happy I got to do it at least once while I was down here. I always, whenever I'm playing, I always think to us playing together, the Singing Angels. I always cherish those memories, and I cherish her. And every time I play, the skills I've grown, I have her to thank for that. Thank you.
Thank you.